It is your favorite podcast. Love is Black, and we are blessed to have Monique and Jenelle from Is Marriage Worth It? The podcast. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely doing good.
All right. Thank you for giving us of your time. We appreciate it. So, should we just dive in?
Absolutely. Dive deep.
Dive deep. So, you guys have done this podcast for a few seasons, and I listened to the last episode, so I don't think you guys have come to an answer yet. But are you leaning in either direction, ladies, in regards to the question, the name of the podcast?
So, I go both ways. So at the end of season 4, I think I was leaning more towards, nah, it's not for me type of thing, even though all the relationships that we've heard, they've been great, good advice, things like that. For me personally, it's just not in the cards. When I first started, I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is something I want. And then the further we go into it, I'm just like, I really don't know. Like, I'm in the middle sometimes, or I'll be like, yeah. And then I'm just like, nah, never mind. I changed my mind.
I'm funny. I am solidly marriage is worth it. I am solidly want to be married someday. I am also solidly stay my ass at home. I do not go anywhere. I do not do the apps. I do not do anything. I don't know how marriage will happen for me. But I very much would like to be married someday.
If you could meet your husband in your living room, you're set.
Very much. And it's almost happened. And I let it go.
Oh my goodness. I think it's an
But I
interesting
mean, that'd be perfect.
question. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. Is marriage worth it? I don't know that there is a right or a wrong answer to it. And I'm sure you've come across a lot of different people who have had different perspectives, and you've probably gotten a lot of feedback from your listeners. Has there been anybody that you have swayed any particular way?
So there is one, because at the beginning of it, I knew for a fact that they were going to say no. Like, we emailed back and forth, and I knew, like, yes, we're finally going to get our no. Somebody that's been married before is going to say no. But throughout that episode, Jenelle happened to kind of convince the guy that, it could be, you got to think about the logistics behind it. And so when it came to his answer, he said yes. I was so mad. I was so mad because I knew it was going to be a no, and I was excited. But she happened to convince him that, if you think about it, it can be. So that's what he went with.
But his episode is a no. I got him to say no again.
He's just kind of all over the place.
This is why my dad said I should have been a lawyer. I just, like I said, I am very much for. So I'm like I'm really for marriage. I believe it's a beautiful institution to be a part of. I do understand it's not for everybody. But I don't like when people just like write it off as like a piece of paper. Because for our LGBT brothers and sisters, there's a lot that piece of paper protects them with, and other groups of people who for like immigration and different stuff like that. There's like that piece of paper is actually really important to me. So when people just kind of write it off, I very much will defend it. But I also understand that like it's not for everybody. You don't have to get married. I don't care if you get married or not. It doesn't change my everyday. And that's what ended up happening was like he just like wrote it off like it didn't matter, and had been married before, right?
He was married before.
And so like I get you were hurt by it, but like to be like, oh, it doesn't matter. It kind of matters. For a lot of people, big much.
All right, let's take a step back for a moment. So I love the idea of the podcast with you. That's why I'm like, I need to reach out to you guys. But let's go back in time.
Okay.
You guys have been friends for a long time. So how did you guys meet? How did this idea come about? You know, let's go back, way back.
Okay, so way back, Jenelle and I go way back, as in we've been friends for over 20 years.
Over 20 years.
Yeah, over 20 years. But yeah, she was more my sister's friend anyways. But then once I graduated college and came like back to the same area, that's
And
when
I
we
got my head out
actually
of my
became,
ass.
yeah, that's when we actually became friends. And so the way the podcast came about, a lot of people around us in our age group were starting to get married or in relationships. And so one day we were just sitting there just like, how do people do this? Like, do you just go and pick somebody and go, ooh, I think I'm gonna marry them? Like, is that how this works? Because backing up, we're church friends. We grew up in a conservative church, so it was just like, you grow up, you get married, you have kids. And so most people find the love of their lives in college. I graduated college without a ring on my finger and said, oh man, I think I'm doing something wrong. And so that's kind of where we were. And then both of us are like, marriage is one of those clubs that you kind of want to be a part of, but I want to know what's on the other side before I decide to join. And we're just like, most people's marriages are closed off. So who could we have talk to us about things? Not getting super personal, but just like, what is marriage? Because obviously we don't know anything about it because we're not married. So my brother took the bait. He's been married for going on 10 years. So we just had a conversation, not even in podcast form, just he was like, I'll tell you all about it. Don't do it, whatever. And he was giving us everything about it. So after that conversation with him, we kind of looked at each other and was just like, do you think more people would talk to us about relationships? And surprisingly,
They have.
Yeah.
Every time somebody says yes, I'm like, really? You'll tell us? Yeah, me and Mo have always been really inquisitive people. And so we just wanted to know what was behind the veil, how how it works. We also knew a lot of people who were getting divorced. And so that was also like part of the driving factor. It was like all these people were getting married, and then a subsect of them were also getting divorced. And we're like, okay, so like, why though? It's like, what stopped being like walking in your marriage essentially? We haven't really and like Mo says, we don't really get too deep into anybody's personal business. Maybe if I'm engaged, somebody will start telling us the more juicy details, but for the most part, we are really just curious, like, how do you pick going to which side of the family for holidays? Like, how do you sit down and decide, oh yeah, I'm going to spend what could be the rest of my life with this person? Like, those were just big questions to us. And thankfully, people have been willing to tell us at least their opinion of it.
Yeah, I think in our experience too, it's been easy to get people to open up about their relationships and to talk about their marriage. All of season 2 for us was Black love stories. And so 20, 29, 28 or 29 Black couples who would just
tell us their love story.
Everything. Yes, I think people are very much willing to talk. But what I find interesting is that question about divorce. That always bothers me. I would love to listen to a lot more couples talk about why they divorce, is, like why divorce happens. I feel like that's the next podcast for you guys. And I'm going to be like the first person to subscribe.
Why you leave that man?
Or woman.
Or woman.
But I mean, for real, why'd y'all leave? And like, you end up hearing like Mo said, we're church people. So, you always hear, little rumors or whispers being like, oh, maybe things weren't as rosy as they were portraying in church, and like things weren't as happy as they were made out to be. And a couple of times me and Mo were sitting there and like, I mean, but if you look back, I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm saddened, but not surprised.
because it's easier to see it from the outside. I think from the outside, you can look in and you can be like, these two don't look like this is going to last long term. But inside, like being the people in the relationship, you're like, nah, they just hating. Like, we're in love.
That part. The people who have told us like no to our podcast, we also are like low key like, so what are you hiding? Like, you haven't been married very long. It should be really easy for you to be like, oh, it's great. Like, we just, have fun all the time. Pandemic, we just been each other. That's all we do. Like, I don't know.
Like, to start off with, at the beginning, when it was new, we're just like, we understand. You don't know where we're going with it, type of thing. But if you've listened to a few episodes or things like that, you shouldn't really be saying no, because we don't get personal. It's like, if you can't answer the question of why you love this person or why did you choose to spend the rest of your life with them, that
you
might
see
be
yourself in the future. Yeah.
That makes sense. I saw a TikTok earlier, and I would love to hear you guys' feedback on maybe if you've heard something similar, but a TikTok earlier where there was a woman just talking about how, she's married now, she's happily married now, but if anything was to ever happen, like, she would never do marriage again. Marriage is just a lot. There's a lot of work to it. There's a lot of, investment in yourself into another person, that if all of that first thing fell apart, there is absolutely no reason to start over and to do that again. Like, no. So I think that person would absolutely say marriage is worth it, yes, but like one time, not more than that, right? Have you guys had
that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, that makes sense. I probably wouldn't do this again if this didn't work out. I probably wouldn't do this again. It's just too much.
I think like 2 or 3 of our guests have kind of given the same sentiment where they're like, we also get a lot of marriage is worth it with the right person. And so I think a lot more people are like, yeah, if this doesn't work, I'm going to go get insert pet here or hobby, and I'm just going to be at home by myself. Like, the people who do it more than one time, honestly, I'm just like, okay, so why?
But I think one of the people that we had on the podcast, I can't remember what season, but they got divorced and then remarried, and their second marriage is like their forever marriage. And it was like, so why wasn't your first one your forever one? And it just wasn't the right person. And then that goes when people are just like, yeah, make sure it's the right one. Then I go back to, how do I know? That's my problem. And then you never really know.
But you're also supposed to just know.
That I have
They're
no
always
idea.
like, oh, you just know. It's like, no, you don't just know. Why? How do you know?
I guess it's like a feeling.
Yeah.
Is it a feeling?
Well, for me, I've said that. I mean, one, the whole marriage thing, I'm only getting married once because I had no intention of getting married at all. Met her, had to get married. That was really very much, I was like, I'm not doing it. Marriage around me didn't work. It didn't work in my family. So I'm like, I'm not doing it. And then met her and had no choice. I had to marry her. So that's how it happened with me.
I dragged him to the courthouse. That's what
this is more love at first sight type of thing for me. She doesn't believe in that, but that's what it was for me. And I find it interesting when I saw this, she showed me that video, I wouldn't do it again, blah, blah, blah. And I've said that I would never get married again, and I definitely wouldn't, but I wasn't sure I entirely agreed with her. Because I feel like if you love somebody and then something happens and you want to try again, I don't know if I'd be as closed-minded to say I'm not going to do it again. I know I won't, but I don't know if I could just, like, for everybody, don't do it. Me, I didn't want to do it, but I wanted to for her. But that doesn't mean that maybe the first time you get married, it doesn't work out, but you come out of it a better person. And then maybe you meet somebody else who's a better fit because you've grown, that person is experienced. Maybe that second time is the right one. So I don't know. I'm conflicted when I saw that video, but like I said, if it doesn't work out here, that's a wrap. It's just not.
But then again,
No, go on.
But then again, with her saying, okay, it's one and done, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's done with relationships. Like, she may never want to get married again. That's fine. She may find a life partner and just live life with that person. So it's like, I'm on the fence. Like, I get it. You can be one and done with marriage, but who's to say, like, oh, another lifelong relationship isn't in the cards for her?
Were you sorry. So I see a lot of like TikToks and online videos, and they're like that say that men know like really quickly if they're going to marry somebody or not. Like, how soon do you think in your relationship did you know, yeah, I'll marry her?
For me,
We weren't even in a
Mhm.
relationship as of yet.
no, yeah, truthfully, real quick, we both worked at the same place.
Okay.
I walked into work one day, she was sitting there, and I'm like, that's my wife, dead ass. That's really how it happened. And her response is, oh, well, what if I was a serial killer, blah, 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 whatever.
So
Well,
many things could have
right,
gone wrong.
of course.
So many things.
you would think the woman in the situation, the one who's wanted immediately would jump on the love thing. No. What if I was a serial killer? What if I blah, blah, blah? Well, then I would have loved a serial killer. What else do you want? Like, you can't, you don't, because you don't control who you love. So it would have been a complicated love, whatever. But I knew, and this is coming from somebody whose parents got divorced,
Mhm.
both got remarried, both got divorced again.
Oh,
I've watched divorce all through my family. So I had this, marriage is trash. And
Mhm.
and then married somebody. So
so
go
so
ahead.
the day you decided you saw her, you're like, that's the one, I'm going to marry her.
Mhm.
To you actually marrying her, how long was that?
Less than a year.
Less than a year.
See, low-key, that's my dream, but it is also my deepest fear. How well do you know somebody in under a year? But like, also, I just need it that quickly. Like, I'm not really trying to like, be
But
out here
how well
playing
do
games.
you ever know somebody, Jenelle?
Very true.
There's her
And
answer.
that's my thing, is that like I'm still learning myself. So he doesn't know everything about me because I don't know everything about me. I'm still
Right.
learning things about me. So how well can you really ever know somebody? There's always going to be a constant change, a shift, like something, traumatic events, like life happens,
Mhm.
and that has an impact, and you'll never fully know the person.
Right.
My response to that is that obviously I can't fully know you. What I can do is I can know the basics about you. I can understand that you're a good person. You
Mhm.
come from a good family. You're about family. You are responsible, stuff like that. The rest of it is, there's risk in everything. There's very few things that are definite. So no matter what you do, whether the relationship has a ring attached to it or not,
Mhm.
I don't know for sure if you're a good person or whatever, but I'm willing to risk it with you. And that's what love should be, inevitable. I don't know you for sure. For us, I knew. It took a little while for her because she was dating some other dude. I just needed her to mess that up, have him mess it up,
Crazy.
realize he was a mess, and then I slide in, come through. You went from zero to hero, got all this stuff out the way, and then boom, and then I knocked her up, and then bang, we're a thing. But even so,
That story didn't even sound pretty.
it wasn't pretty.
Men are like
I'm dead ass.
insane.
I mean,
I don't
it's not pretty, but we're going
Can
on
you
for it.
throw like a little dust on, like sprinkle it, like
Oh,
make it nice?
Hold on. You said that I didn't even know you and blah, blah, blah. You could have been a serial killer. Why do I need to make it pretty? You
We
didn't.
still don't know whether or not I am a serial killer. We still don't know that.
That's my wife, by the way.
I mean, there's potential in everybody, I think. Except for me, I don't like blood. It's absolutely the worst. I could not kill somebody. Only the blood part, I think.
I was just willing to take the risk because I saw her and there was just an immediate connection. That's really what it was. So when I say, oh, I had to marry her, I don't say like she dragged me in. It's probably me dragging her over to this side because this was the person. And it's all cheesy and such, but it is what it is. So I want to jump over because we've kind of talked about marriage versus relationship, that type of thing. Is there a delineation to you, ladies? Marriage versus like a real relationship? Somebody you meet, and I heard one of you guys said it, and it was a question that you got. You meet somebody who is perfect for you, but you don't want to get married.
It's the most favorite game. He's
Mhm.
perfect for you in every way and has some, I don't know, whatever is in her head that day. I think I could be in a committed relationship without marriage. Um, I think there was a little deconstructing of our religious background for me to get to this point. And I would need the paperwork, power of attorney, and all that other stuff, living wills, and all the things that I would need to protect us in like those serious conversations that marriage just kind of like waves this magic wand over. Um, but I think if we're both willing to sign all the paperwork, I think I could do just a committed relationship. I think that was what the mysticism of marriage was, at least for me, was what changed when you signed the piece of paper, when you had the ceremony, and then you went home for the night, and we saw you in like a week or two. Like, what changed in that relationship? And so I think I'm getting closer to the answer, but I think I could.
And for me, that's probably my dream. Like, it seems like that would be something that's right up my alley. And I know it's an oxymoron to say, I don't like commitment, but I could be committed to somebody. Like, that's just a different level of commitment. But I definitely could be committed to somebody without, I know Jenelle hates it, but without just that piece of paper. But it's something that would technically be right up my alley.
I'll just make sure you have all the other paper in checked.
I like that answer to that question. I think it's an important one that you have to decide. I have to say, when I think about love and relationships, I don't associate the paperwork and the legal stuff to it. So I'm not thinking about a living will or owning property together or all that stuff. I'm just like, I love that woman. I want to be with her. And I guess in my head, the rest of that stuff kind of has to fall into place. So when I hear that as part of the grander discussion, it's a little disappointed in me. And I understand it's an important part of it, but it isn't to me in all honesty. I guess I would just be taken. If you decided you was done with me, you would take me to the cleaners. You would just take
This
it
is
all.
good to know. I'm gonna write that
It's
down.
like you didn't know already. Get out of here. This ain't new. What are you talking about?
So he's basically the opposite of, what we've kind of learned. Love is not enough, but he's over here saying
Love is a whole thing.
it's love.
It's for this. Love is
Right.
enough for this. Go
For
ahead.
him.
Clearly not us. Clearly me. This feels like a one-sided love affair. So
So I'm going to tell your listener base probably one of my deepest secrets. I like fan fiction. Fan fiction is, fan art in store based off of already created properties. My favorite of that is Pride and Prejudice, and my favorite trope is marriage of convenience. So to me, we start with the paperwork and then we find the love. I don't know why. It's just literally one of my favorite tropes. I've read romance novels. They're kind of hard for me to come by without the ick factor. I think Regency time takes away kind of like rapey vibes from it. But for the most part, I really do like that thing. So like I've thought of it all. Arranged marriages, Married at First Sight. I watched the whole first season. That was my jam. I sometimes I'm just like, I think the only way I could be married is if the paperwork came first. And then we'll like fall in love afterwards. So like, I don't know. I think that's part of it. Like I've never not romanticized the paperwork. I think that's part of the romance of it.
You can always learn to love somebody, I assume.
Because I think people like fall in and out of love all the time. And I think it's the falling back into love that is the difference between people filing for divorce and staying married.
I think the love part is the least of it. I think it's the like part that you need. You need a friendship and you need to like the other person. Like them enough that when they are working your nerves, because they will work your nerves, maybe on a daily basis, you still are like, this is it. This is like the one.
I feel like your tone changed. It got more.
It's not love, it's the like. If it's
Oh, no.
if it's not for like the friendship, you know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
you'll have friendships, you guys have been friends for over 20 years. You still chat, you still are interested in each other's lives. You might have little quirks that you really are like, why is she like that? But y'all love each other, right? That's marriage. That's literally marriage right there. It's having that bond, that kinship, that relationship with somebody where even those little quirks, those little things that you're like, oh, why are you like this? Like, what is like this thing that you just can't stop doing? Because it's going to be something. There's always something in every sort of relationship. But I think that's what marriage is, honestly. It's the like, it's not the love. It's not the love at all. You could fall in love, out of love, in love, out of love. It's the like.
I don't know if I agree. If you're falling in and out of love, then it's not love. I think you're I don't know. I can't, I had the word and I can't. You're falling in and out of like. I think
Infatuation?
Yeah, infatuation is what it is. You're like, oh, I'm really attracted to you, then I'm not. Love is something
I
different.
don't know about the attraction. I don't think it's attraction. I
Love-
really think you gotta like somebody.
But I think love should encompass the like, the respect, the damn, you're annoying as hell, but I'll deal with you anyway type of thing. Love should carry more weight. And if it's in and out of love, then it doesn't feel like it's love to me. It's just like, I'll deal with you today, but on a Wednesday, I'm not.
No, there's family I love, but I don't like them.
But that's family.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like the person you marry becomes part of your family.
Hmm.
Like
Agreed.
I can very much love you and not like you.
But you can, I don't know.
But I could like you and not love you.
Right. I just feel like the difference, because you can leave me if you want, but that's your mama. Like, that's it.
I mean, I could leave her too.
And she's still your mama, but you can leave me and I'm not your husband anymore.
You just be an ex-husband.
Well, I don't know. It sounds like we're getting there anyway. Oh no, like it's a wrap. Papers have been filed. I don't know.
Oh no. See,
I think it's just having a foundation to go back to. Like whether it's like you're saying, like a friendship, like you have something to go back to, whether you want to call it falling in and out of love or whatnot. You have something that you can wake up and look at and go, this is the reason that I like / love, because who really knows what the word love means anyways, but that's a whole nother, I'm not even going to go down that road. But you have to wake up and realize there is a reason that you like / love this person. So you have to have that foundation to go back to.
So I have a question here to each of you.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be marriage. Let's just talk about somebody you are comfortable being in a committed relationship with. If either one of you could build that part, the 3 things that person has to have. What are the 3 things that person, you can only pick 3. So that I do that so that you have to there's got to be a hierarchy. You got to prioritize what's important. The 3 things that person has to have for you to be like, I'm going to be committed to you and possibly married.
Only 3?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the top 3.
Top 3.
Family Feud. Top 3 answers on the board.
Loyal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to throw, it might be superficial, I don't care. I'm going to have to throw some type of attraction into there. That's important. So loyalty, attraction, and I don't have a third. Those are my top 2.
Okay.
Because I can't pick a third.
So this person has to be financially stable. And like the whole thing. I don't need you to be top 6 figures. We can make the same amount. I just need you to be like, we're putting this away for a future plan. Because I am not crippled in debt, and that is the win that I have. So financially stable. attraction / sexually compatible.
Compatible.
Compatible. Thank you. Don't know why that ended. I think those to me are the same thing. And those are just like really important. And the third one, family oriented. But in a like a non-selfish way. Like family oriented in like you also want to get to know my family and like want to be initiated into my family as you want me to be initiated and like welcomed into your own. I think sometimes when we think family oriented, they're like, oh, you'll just come into my family and, you know, kick rocks to those people you were raised with. So I want them to be like, we're building like this huge clan of people, kind of family oriented. And those are my top three.
I love
Even
that.
though I kind of cheated with 4.
No,
Okay, cool.
no,
It's your list. You can
No.
say what you will.
those two were the same.
Mm-hmm.
You even said it. Those
Yeah.
two were
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you be sexually compatible with somebody you weren't attracted to? Would you even find out?
Maybe.
Technically,
Depending how much you had to drink.
I know Friday night, tequila's flowing.
but it doesn't have to be. So you could be sexually compatible with somebody that you may not be physically attracted to, but you might be emotionally attracted to. So then you have to figure out what kind of
Yeah.
attractiveness you're going for. Attractiveness. I don't know if that's a word.
Oh, emotional over physical.
Okay, emotional.
We could become disabled tomorrow. So like I'd rather be emotionally attracted to you than like
Very true. Very, very true. I think the older I get, the more I need the connection.
That's nice, but I feel like if Morris Chestnut walked into
He's
this
the only
garage,
exception to the rule.
he walked
He
up
is
in here and he
the
was an
exception.
asshole.
here's the funny thing to me though. Like, oh, this is gonna be rude. I don't want to say that. That might be rude. Never mind.
Please.
That is
Oh,
it's totally fine.
you have to say it.
Okay. I say this out of love. You were the Wish version of Morris Chestnut.
Oh,
Oh wow.
oh, I like that.
Oh,
Like
It's
if
true.
of all the celebrities you could have picked, I was just like, no, I can, you know, I could see it. I could see Morris Chestnut in him.
wow.
See?
Wow. Okay. I feel thoroughly good right now.
I'm winning.
Okay, good.
You are winning. Yes.
Winning.
That's so nice. Oh, my goodness.
It was a compliment for you, but I took this compliment.
Did you?
I mean, she picked good.
That's wonderful. That might just be the headliner that I take. I may have. That's how I'm gonna promote this episode. Yeah, they said something real nice about me. It just means
Sure. That's fine.
Oh no, it'd be a mutual thing. You have any questions?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So as we start to kind of wind down here, how is the dating pool and or world today? That's the most confusing thing for me. It's like, what are people doing when they're trying to date in today's world? It seems like everything's online. Is there any upside to dating in the modern society?
Depends on what your definition is of dating and what you're dating for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about just meeting up with people, getting to know people, having a good time, it's great right now. Like that's what this is all about. If you're trying to date with intention to lead towards maybe a serious long-term relationship, it is like looking for a needle in a haystack. That's the best thing that I can say because I have done online dating. I've done speed dating online. We did speed dating
We did it in person one time.
That was terrible.
It sucks.
It was a lot more women to men. And so you just be sitting there for like 20 minutes waiting for a guy to come to your table because they're just
Chatting to random women. Being like, you're beautiful. Why are you out here looking for men?
So I don't know if it's the location that I'm in, but it's really hard to find somebody that I match with or that meets my standards. And online, it's, oh yeah, I can have a great conversation with you. And then it's one of those things you stop messaging back because somebody else decided to message you and you may like them more. So it's like heavier competition when it doesn't have to be, but at the same time, it's competition out there because even if I match with you, it doesn't mean you're the only person that I'm talking to or that you're talking to. And a lot of people aren't honest. Like that's the main thing where it's like, oh yeah, I'm an open book. I'll be this honest with you. And then when you start trying to talk to them, you clearly see you're right through it. And then it's just a mess. It's trash. And trying to meet people in the real world is even harder because I'm an introvert per se. And I have a lot of introverted tendencies. So I'm not going to make the first move. And then if somebody makes the first move, if I'm not in the right headspace or like see it coming, I'm gonna run the opposite direction. So my perfect person may have already tried to hit on me and I freaked out and ran away. So I'm in a lose-lose situation right now.
I think there's a lot of intentionality that needs to happen with dating, but I also think most correct when it's like there's a lot of dishonesty amongst people. And honestly, I don't even think it's always intentional. There are people out there lying straight up. But there's also people who like they want it, but there's so many options that they don't want to miss out on someone else. And so I think that that gets in the way a lot, which is why I just stay at home. Because it's just, I don't know. I don't want to play games. I just want to like build a future with somebody. So yeah, it kind of sucks. But it doesn't have to if you don't let it like consume you.
Well, I think that's true. I think that's why committed or marriage, those relationships are so valuable because of all this that you have to go to possibly get it. Lying and you look like this or you say you have this and blah blah blah. When you finally get past all the garbage, all the debris, all the brick walls, and you finally are in something with somebody, it's valuable. I think that's why we're in this search for love. We want it so bad that we'll just take anything that resembles it.
Yeah, and I think, and not to blame men, but some proclaimed nice guys are not nice. And they don't understand why they don't get bitches because they're not nice people. I think I've stopped saying that I am a nice person, just because I don't know if I'm always nice to people. I know that there are times I'm not nice to everybody. But like being nice doesn't mean like you automatically get what you want. And I think that ends up being the frustrating part. Like, and social media also doesn't help. I would sit here and I watch these videos of men being like, I'm so nice. And they just want like mean people and like jerks get it. It's like, you're not a nice person if that's what you think is what women are doing. It's like, well, they don't like me because I was into anime and nerdy stuff. Did they not like you, or did you quiz them on every like minute detail about an anime when they told you they also liked anime? It's just like people are feeding into their own like false narratives of what's happening. So then you're just like, okay, well, if that's what you believe anyways. And I do it myself. I see all these beautiful women on social media, kind people on social media who are like, I would love to be in a relationship and like I just don't get picked and all this other stuff. I'm like, girl, if you're not getting picked, I'm not gonna get picked. And so that also feeds into your own like like false narrative. Like you have to go out and you have to do stuff. You have to meet people. You have to put yourself in semi-uncomfortable but safe scenarios so that you can meet people. And hopefully this summer I'll do it. At the end of every season, I say I'm going to go outside, and I don't.
You can do it.
Yes.
I believe in you.
She's almost there. She's almost there.
I'm
Almost. We
there.
got it. We got it.
Well, I think we getting to the end, but being the man here, and I've heard your your comment, I do have a question.
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
not to
gosh.
blame men, but blame men. What are women doing wrong in the dating scene? Because we pretty much proclaim what some men are doing wrong. What are women doing wrong? Not something that men made them do. What's something specific that women are doing wrong? Because men and women are both trying to get relationships. They're trying to find somebody. So I don't think it's all men. What do you think?
I don't think it's all men, but I think patriarchal society puts us in a position where women have more rules on how they need to act in society than men. So mm, so if a man approaches me, I have to be nice, regardless of how I feel about them. But attraction is also important. So if I'm not attracted to this person, I also have to be nice to this person, because too many instances of verbal or physical abuse happen to women when they're not nice to men because their egos aren't. Like if I'm like, oh, I'll be in the grocery store, somebody will be like, hey, you're really beautiful. I'm like, thank you, I'm with somebody. We can't be friends. No. I want to come here and do my groceries. Well, you're a bitch anyways, and da 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 da. It's like, okay, cool. So I think women, but not to say that women out here are perfect and not doing anything wrong. So to answer your question, what women are not, I think women also need to be honest with what they are looking for in a relationship. I think it's good to have standards. I think it's good to know what you want, but out of a grocery list of 10 things, to always expect all 10 items to be at the grocery store is not always realistic.
Okay. I think that's fair.
3 or 4 things out of 10, I think, is a really good batting average.
Right? And so you just have to prioritize, like we did earlier, the 3 things that are important. To, like, I could have said 6 feet, but that's not really that important to me. In the grand scheme of things, like, I'm not trying to produce star athletes. I'm just trying to produce good humans. So like, different sports have different requirements. You don't have to be a 7'11". I'm just saying, like, you could be a disc jockey, not disc jockey. You could be a jockey, like a horse. Do like the Kentucky Derby at 5'2".
Oh,
Everybody has a role in society. So I think
Wow.
the only thing, not the only thing, but I think one thing women are doing wrong is maybe putting priorities on things that aren't really priorities on their list.
yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts there?
Yes. So I do agree with what Janelle is saying, but another thing, it does have to go with, especially with online dating, because we may want to match with a person, we kind of change who we are to
Mhm.
fit who we think they will like. And then it eventually comes back to bite us in the butt, because we're lying to ourselves, basically, just because we're lying to ourselves and we lie to them. And then it goes back to just being dishonest type of thing, or not knowing what we want to begin with, and not knowing who we are to begin with. I know we may not know who we are, and that's always changing. But at the same time, if I don't know who I am and I'm trying to put myself into a relationship, not knowing who I am, for me personally, I'm a chameleon, so I will start to form into them and lose myself.
I like that. Good answers.
Mhm.
Good answers.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We have a question that when we have guests on, we kind of always ask them the same question, but we have to manipulate the question a little bit for you guys.
Okay.
So, how I want to manipulate the question, I did not run this by Harvey first, so we'll see his reaction. Um, um, as a result of doing this podcast together, I'm sure you guys have talked to many people and learned a lot of different things. How have you become, what's one way you've become a better person or a new characteristic that you may have developed as a result of doing this podcast together? And each of you can answer.
I think mine's pretty easy. I think if you listen to our episodes in progression, I think you've noticed I talk a little bit less. I mean, I still help lead the conversation, but I definitely feel that I listen more and I allow other people to take the lead. Like Mo truly is like, introverted, and so I do leave her to answer all the questions, and I'll take us off script sometimes. But I think it's been important for me to start listening to what's around me and learning from others.
Love it.
Okay.
And something for me that I have learned is that it is okay to be my authentic self,
Yeah.
whatever that may be, because it is changing. And Jenelle knows, well, Jenelle has seen the progression of me. And so it's sometimes a wild switch. And I'm reminded doing this, listening to people's stories and things like that, that you do just have to be your authentic self and that it is a-okay.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I have enjoyed talking to you ladies. If our listeners want to follow you guys, listen to your podcast or anything, just let us know. Where can they find you? How can they connect with you? And what do you guys have going on?
Well, they can listen to our podcast, Is Marriage Worth It, on all podcast platforms. They can also follow us on social media. We have a Twitter, a TikTok, Facebook group, and our email, and all of them are at Marriage Worth It. And our email address is marriageworthit@gmail.com.
And you guys are the first to officially know that we are coming out with season 5, and that will be dropping towards the end of February. So look out for that.
Right.
I love the exclusive.
I'll be ready for that. I have subscribed and I'll be listening in to see and hear the progression and hope for great things, whether it be marriage or relationship or just staying in your living room and be happy, whatever it needs to be. Thank you so much for talking with us about this. I'm glad I got to talk. I love you guys. I love the pod. I'm glad you guys came on here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it was such a pleasure. I can't imagine not having this conversation. A lot of important things that we really touched on today and kind of went through the whole gamut of the relationship spectrum. We talked about dating, we talked about marriage, we talked a little bit about divorce and how much I really want that to be your next podcast. We can just put that out there into the universe.
is divorce worth it?
No, not is divorce worth it.
Was the divorce?
Why did you divorce? Was the divorce worth it? That's gonna be like a very clear yes. Most guests, I'm assuming, are happy
Right.
they
And then they
divorced.
have to elaborate. Why?
Oh, okay. Okay. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Bring it out there. Okay. I think we have absolutely positively, Harvey, come to the conclusion that love is progressive.
I like that. Well done.
Love is progressive. Love is many things.
But this good love is Black.